We just got ourselves an update on New World, particularly around how territory control is going to work. I think this was a large area of concern for a lot of the player base after the recent news regarding PvP being opt-in. Go watch my other video on that if you need to catch up. But we actually have a very positive post here in my opinion, so let's talk about it. First of all, we learn a bit more about the faction system. PvP will indeed be faction-based, and members of the same faction will not be able to fight over territory. Now, this wasn't specified, but I think this probably means that even while opted into PvP, players of the same faction won't be able to fight. When a company of players take over some territory, the territory will belong to their faction, but the company, and in particular the leader of the company, and any officers they appoint, known as consuls in New World, will have a significant influence over what happens to the lands within, and indeed the citizens. I'm not a huge fan of the faction-based gameplay. I would prefer pure player politics. Well, actually, I think pure player politics is a lot better. I think factions are intended to prevent mega groups forming, controlling everything, but I'm a bit skeptical of this actually working, particularly if it's easy to swap factions. Bandwagoning can be a serious issue and lead to very one-sided battles for dominance. And if faction swapping is hard, then you just run into issues where you might want territory, but oh wait, it's owned by your faction, so tough luck. Or maybe you have friends on both factions, but they have friends or alliances they don't want to leave in their current factions. The loss of player freedom here is just a bit of an inconvenience, and has a few potential problems that could develop. One good thing about it is that it will provide an overarching driving force for players who want some guidance on what they're supposed to be doing, which is certainly more in line with New World's less sandbox-enthused audience. There's also the problem of what do I do if I just don't like any of the potential factions, but hopefully that doesn't happen. The good news comes right now though, as what New World has lost in player freedom in PvP, it seems to have retained it in territory control. When owning land, the governor of the land will be able to set taxes on residency, trading, crafting, and gathering. This is to offset the maintenance cost of territory and to provide a profit. If territory isn't maintained, it will de-level, crippling the services within. As long as war is expensive and gear isn't too permanent, this is a very solid reason to hold on to land, particularly in areas with valuable resources where a lot of players are engaging. This sort of thing should also integrate PvP and PvE fairly nicely, as both gameplay styles will contribute to the settlement. The company in charge will also be able to upgrade various buffs, which promote certain types of gameplay, presumably bonuses to gathering, crafting, hunting, or even PvP. I hope this system has a lot of depth to it, because it certainly needs to be to maintain an illusion of control over the world with an opt-in PvP system. Players want to feel like their actions mean something, and this system seems to be a great way to do that. Territory is split into the settlement and the fort. The fort is where wars are fought for control and can be upgraded to be easier to defend and so on. Hopefully in such a way where every siege could be very different. Like I said previously, depth is very important here to prevent the game from feeling sterile and samey, particularly with the less dynamic, instanced form wars will take. Settlements are the places where players craft, trade, and live. Territory is divided this way with the fort, such that simple residents are not affected by war, outside of the leadership changes that will influence the territory down the line. Companies will be able to choose what crafting stations and other amenities to upgrade, and it should provide a lot of options and variations between territories. I doubt you'll be able to choose everything, so choose wisely. Of course, making these great advances will require a community effort, as you can see from this humorously unfinished town project board. Companies will set an upgrade in motion, and all players living in the territory will have to work together, completing various tasks to benefit the settlement. A lot of people seem to not like this system, but I actually think it's a really good one. Even in a full sandbox game, you'd basically be doing this anyway, and this makes it far easier for a player who might not know exactly how stuff works to contribute to the greater good. Having the game be as non-obfuscating as possible is always a good thing in my opinion, and it really doesn't preclude depth either. Having structures in place to guide the community gently are sure to work out. I do hope we see some more interesting missions like exploration or PvP though. That's probably fairly likely, as it seems the board we see in the post was an early version. One complaint I do have is that members of enemy factions will be allowed to live in each other's settlements. I hate to say it, but this really makes no sense. Why should I be able to cozy up to my worst foe and hurl foul language at them while reaping the benefits that they worked for? I think perhaps the solution here would be a setting to increase taxes on non-friendly faction members. I understand that Amazon want New World to be completely non-PvP if players want, so I doubt they'll remove this residency ability, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have a feature promoting joining the faction that owns your house. Overall, this territory system is very satisfactory to me, and greatly increases my confidence that New World will have a good helping of intrinsic value to its gameplay. I was a little worried about how far they moved away from the original sandbox design, but I'm very glad to see that they have tried to make some compromises. Thanks for watching, team. Subscribe and stay tuned for more big New World content. Let me know what you think of the changes as well. There are a lot of questions left over about New World, particularly around the combat system and war, and I'm certainly looking forward to getting the juicy details in the near future. I'll see you then.